Hey guys, welcome to the Movie Goers Podcast. My name is Jordan. You can find me on all socials at Jordy B Writing,
And I'm Darius. D's all up in the area on all socials.
and we'll be reviewing Past Lives today. This movie was released in 2003, starring Greta Lee, Teo Yoo, and John Magaro. The plot synopsis covers Nora and Hae Sung, two deeply connected childhood friends who were ripped apart after Nora's family immigrates from South Korea. Decades later, they're reunited for one fateful week as they confront destiny, love, and the choices that make a life.
We're adding a segment called "Why Do We Choose This Movie?" But it's it's interesting because this is the first time we're doing this segment, and honestly, in the interest of full disclosure, we are choosing this movie because we originally had a movie planned that just didn't. There wasn't a lot of meat on the bones, and the episode was whack. So we're re-recording, and we tried to do this one. We were scrolling Amazon Prime and was like, "This looks good. Let's do it." So there's not an emotional connection that we had ahead of time. We just chose this because we needed something quick to re-record on the fly. So.
Correct. And we needed something romantic for Valentine's Day, which is when this is dropping.
Correct. Correct.
Shout out to all the lovers out there.
Yes. All right. So we act one. The movie is split into three acts. You're following them at 12 years old, 24 years old, and 36 years old. And we want to also let you know that this is a focused movie. It's a movie watcher's movie. You can't have your phone out while you watch this because there's
No.
subtitles. The two main characters speak in Korean because they're from Korea, and it's authentic because it would be weird if they were speaking English, but it's not light fare for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So Act One is their childhood in Korea when they were 12 years old. This act introduces Nora and Haesung as inseparable childhood friends in South Korea.
So we'll start it out with Act One, obviously, was pretty simple because they're 12 years old for all of like 10, 15 minutes of the movie. But the movie does start out with a scene of three adults at a bar. There's a white man and then the two childhood friends. They're grown up now. And there's a voiceover and it says, it's like someone's people watching them and it says, who do you think they are to each other? And the camera kind of zooms in on them and then it cuts to the flashback of them being 12 years old.
And it's a very brief they're 12 years old, they're in South Korea. One of their parents, I think, gets something
Yeah.
in New York City, so the kid has to go
Yeah.
and
Toronto. But yeah.
Toronto, and so the kid obviously has to go. They're 12 years old, and then they disappear. And they well, not disappear, but they separate. And then we go into
Correct.
Act Two, where they reconnect online at 24 years old. We got years later, Nora and Haesung reconnect online. They rekindle their bond across continents, sharing their lives and dreams. Basically, he puts out a Facebook message like, I'm looking for I forget her Korean name, but she's going by her
Yeah.
American name. So
Which is Nora.
they didn't link at all, but they found each other and they begin this video pen pal relationship. So
Mhm.
yeah, what do you got? What's your first observation and or question?
So I actually, obviously, the movie is essentially about culture aside from love,
Correct.
and assimilation and globalization, which I'll kind of touch on a little later. But I like the fact that when she reached out to him, I thought she was going to message him. She messaged him before she sent the friend request on Facebook, or I guess it was Facebook. And I thought she was going to need the translator thing because I
Yeah.
was thinking to myself, she probably hasn't had to write in Korean in a long time because she just is on the phone with her family and he was her best friend. So who else would she have spoken to, I guess? So I like that she still had those cultural ties, to her homeland. I think that was really cool. Um, Also, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he's out with his guys in Korea
Yeah.
and they're drinking like sake and his friends crashing out over the breakup. He's
Yeah.
like, he goes, "Why do I still miss that bitch?"
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard a lot of feedback from people being like that scene was too American. But South Korea is basically a vassal state of America. Like it is a
Right.
very American Eastern, country.
Correct.
So it makes
Heavy
perfect
influence from
sense.
there.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a military base there.
Right.
It's the Korean War we fought on their behalf. So
Right.
it makes South Korea is basically a United States vassal state. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
One, did you check? A lot of people don't know this, but he's in the military because in South Korea they have mandatory conscription.
Right.
Every man between the ages of 18 and 28 has to do at least 2 years in the military.
Hmm.
which is one of my most unpopular positions that I think that should be here as well. But so fun fact, BTS, like the K-pop band,
Hmm.
um, temporarily is broken up because even multi-billion dollar pop stars have to do their
Have to
military
go and do
service.
the yeah.
So
It's like that in Finland too. Laurie Markkinen, an NBA
yeah,
player, he had to go and do like a quick like few months of service like in the off season because it's like mandatory over there too.
it's fun. It's like it's more common than not
Yeah,
to for all men in the country to have to do some sort of military or public service.
right.
So when people get online bitching about how terrible America is, and it's like you don't even know how good you have it. Like there are countries that make you go to the military whether you like it or not. Um, so I loved that that the relationship was totally via talking. And I
Yeah,
find that those relationships are more entrenched and have more deeper connections
yeah,
than hooking up or I mean we're grown fucking.
yeah,
And I just it was nice that that's how they fell in love.
yeah.
Via the video chatting from a million miles away.
Yeah, and then like wake. I love that montage. It's like 6 or 7 minutes where they're just he got up early so he could basically FaceTime her on the train to
Yep.
work, and she's asleep but in bed with the laptop because they're on Zoom, and all that stuff just reminds you of like all the best parts of when you're young and in love.
Caking. They was
Yeah,
caking.
yeah, that was cupcaking for real. They was cupcaking hard. I
Falling
remember
asleep
those.
on the phone
I
like teenagers.
Yeah, I remember those days, man, where you like. I would like try to like at night. I'm a night owl, so I'd like if I had like had a girl I was in love with, whatever. I'd like send some like long drawn out paragraph about how much I felt, how much I loved her, so on and so forth. And I'd send it like 3, 4 in the morning. So when she woke up, that would be the first thing she saw.
Oh, you a lover's lover for real.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm a poet, man. I can't help it.
that's smooth, man. I didn't do none of that. But I used to do AIM
Okay.
and my little girlfriends or whatever, I would schedule the messages.
Yeah.
And so
Okay. Yeah, that's
I
smart.
didn't want her to know that I was, typing at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I would just set that bitch to send at like 8:15 a.m. Like because I ain't thirsty now. Like I ain't up,
Yeah, I feel
just
you.
but no man, the instant connection and the fact
Yeah.
that in a way, I guess my question, I guess I was gonna lead you with
Yeah.
what was their love language, but I guess I'll go question observation. Their love language was speaking Korean. Like that's the only
Yeah.
person she spoke Korean to was
In the
her
movie,
mom
pretty
and
much.
him.
Yeah.
And it was like it was a taste of home for her and it made her feel
Yep.
comfortable because that's her first
100%.
language and he brought that out of her. I thought that was really dope.
Yeah, me too. I actually wrote that down. I think I wrote down for maybe my Act 3 notes. But yeah, he literally was a piece of home for her, which is why they were always going to have those connections and soul ties aside from just being childhood friends, you know? Like I mean, I moved away from my childhood friends when I was around the same age,
Yeah,
and I actually reconnected with some of them like recently, the last few months. And in some ways, it's like no time has passed
yeah.
because we've Facebook and stuff. You can still kind of see each other and all that. And then also just like there's this thing in psychology, I forget what it's called. It's a phenomenon where whenever if it's someone from your past, no matter how long it's been left, next time you see them, you're going to revert back to whoever you were when you knew them.
Correct.
And and it's just a lot like that. Like that's kind of what it is for them. Like, he still viewed her as, the 12-year-old girl that cried because he got a better grade than her for the first time ever, you know.
Yeah.
And they just had like a very sweet, like authentic love for each other. And you're right, it wasn't superficial. Like looking back on it now, reflecting, he never once talked about her looks. He never
No.
once like said she was beautiful, called her sexy, anything like that. Like it was very much just, I enjoy spending time with you. I want to know what you think about things, how you view the world. What are your passions? What are your goals? And that's something
I,
we don't really do so much anymore today.
I have a friend who he married young.
Hmm.
And one day obviously, I mean, at this point, the audience will know, like, I'm a lifelong bachelor. And so he once asked me, he goes, don't you want someone to do stuff with, travel with, to go to movies with, da 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 da.
Right.
And I was like, you actually have it backwards. I'm an eligible bachelor. Like, I can find a date. Like, I can find someone to do things with. I can find someone to go to a
Right.
theme park with. I can find someone to watch a movie with. I can find someone to go to dinner with. It's
Hmm.
finding someone to do nothing with
Yeah.
that's hard. It's
Yeah.
like they fell in love doing nothing. And
Absolutely.
it's that's where love is established. It's a Sunday
Yeah.
afternoon on the couch, or one
Yep.
person is reading a book and the other person is dicking around on Twitter, and you're just having fun doing
Hmm.
nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's hard. It's very easy to find someone to go to. I mean, everything's fun at Disney World. It's easy.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
everyone's fun,
At
having,
bowling
yeah,
and,
bowling and hanging out. But like, can you spend, can you cake at 6 a.m. talking about absolutely nothing?
yeah,
And they did, and I thought that was a true portrayal of what genuine love is.
that's very much real. Like whenever I reflected on past relationships, like the best days or the best moments weren't us, at some fancy restaurant or, traveling or whatever. It was something simple as just like sitting in the car listening to music
Yeah,
or sitting at home talking and just, shooting the shit over dinner and, watching Insecure together.
yeah.
Like that was the thing I did with an ex or
God, I
whatever.
love that show.
Me too, man. And like we literally watched like Loki. We were like madly in love at the time. We were watching Loki Happy, the scene when
Yeah.
they get back together, and we both were like, "Wait, are you crying?"
I will say this though, fellas in the audience, don't run with that. You still need to take that girl out. She don't want to
Yeah, no,
sit
no,
up
yeah,
and
yeah,
watch.
yeah.
She don't want to
Take her
sit up
on
and watch you
dates.
play video games every weekend. You
Get
still
this
need
thing on.
to.
Take her on dates.
Yes, you still don't run with that. Like, doing nothing is cool, and that, I get it, but like, you don't
You
get
do
too comfortable.
that. You do that after you've fallen in love, guys.
Correct. And still take her. She still wants to. She do not want to sit up and watch you play Madden every weekend.
No,
I
not
promise
every
you. I don't
night.
care what she
No, no,
says.
no,
She
no,
does
no.
not. So balance. Life is about balance. Too
Right.
many people get comfortable and stop taking her out, and you can't do that
Yeah,
either.
that's a fact. They're
So.
gonna be like, yeah, Jordan Darius said we don't got to go out no more.
So yeah, love is doing nothing. Okay,
Doing nothing.
you're clipping it at the wrong spots. Like,
You want to
I
go
mean,
out? You're not for me.
it's all about balance. She still wants to go out. She still wants to
Yes.
get pretty for you. She still wants to go do things. She don't want to sit up and watch Insecure every weekend. So,
Yeah,
have that balance.
that's a fact. Um, one thing I'd also like is that the fact that this story could literally only exist today because of social media. Like
Correct.
if in the 80s she moved away, that was it. They were never going to see each other
Yeah.
again,
That is,
and
I
amongst
am, I'm pretty anti social media, but you are right. That is one thing that
yeah,
makes it a better, the reconnection. So I will give him
yeah,
that.
yeah, because I mean we see all the negativity from social media, obviously, but it's nice to see a story that social media did like was a factor in like some positivity, like it's that's so rare now.
Yeah, it's true. But you're right though. I was talking to a homie the other day. It was like, kids these days don't understand how much bigger the world is now well, I
Hmm.
mean, how much bigger the world used to be. It's
Right.
like when we were kids, if your dad got a job 2 highways down the street, they just disappeared. Like,
Yeah, you were done.
the
Like,
kid in the neighborhood who moved 3 exits down the highway fell
yeah.
off the face of the earth.
No, dead ass. Like literally. So the
Like, you
the
switch
office,
schools, it's it. Like,
yeah, bro. The office park that I work at now is literally around the corner from the house I lived in from when I was 6 to when I was 12.
yeah.
And like I was a kid that moved away and like I never saw those kids ever again.
Yeah.
And I'm it's 20 minutes
Yeah,
away.
well, so when I was, so we all went to one middle school. It was called Sandburg.
Yeah.
And then you split off for high school, you Armstrong or Cooper. And before, this was before social media. I think social media came on when I was about 18, 19, MySpace, but I was a late
Yeah.
adopter. But high school, none of that shit existed. And the kids who I went to Cooper, the kids who went to Armstrong just didn't exist anymore.
Yeah. No, for real.
This is because this is school like a block and a half away, and
Same.
that was it. Like,
Same
we saw
here.
them at the games, and that was it.
Yeah, like so my middle school I moved here after seventh grade. So eighth grade, they actually split our neighborhood in half. We got bused to a school across town.
Yeah,
And there's like the neighborhood schools right across the street. And so in eighth grade, it was like me and all these kids who didn't really live near me.
yeah,
And then in high school, it was you either went to like Sanderson, Broughton, or Leesville.
yeah.
And most of the kids didn't really go to Leesville. So I went to Leesville. It was seven of us from, from everyone I knew in eighth grade. So you had to like restart all over again. And then maybe you run into somebody at a game or like in the mall later on or whatever. It is crazy how you can be in the same city and be so separated as kids because you just don't have access to, you know, regular transportation and shit like that. And
Yeah, yeah.
we didn't really have phones then either. So
No, and back then you didn't get a car at 16. Like,
no,
the rich kids did,
yeah,
but
that was the rich kids.
that was not a working class thing. Like,
No, that was not a
my
birthright.
first car on my own. I was 19, I think.
Yeah,
Shout
I
out to that
was
Pontiac Grand Dam.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
24 when I got
yeah,
my first
ooh,
car.
damn.
Yeah.
Um,
It was like a oh 07, it was like a 2014 Jeep Patriot. It
the
looked kind of like the Batmobile.
I
I
had
got T-boned at an intersection. I still miss that car every day.
I had a 2004 Pontiac Grand Am G6, and that engine
Mhm.
ran hot than a motherfucker because I was like, it just, so that was my baby. I had an illegal window tint on it. Cops pulled me over all the motherfucking time. All the time. But that was my ride.
Yeah.
So I don't have my phone around me, but I took a picture of their breakup scene where he's
Yeah.
just like, I
Staring at
found
the
my
screen.
friend after 12 years.
Dog,
They
that
had to
hurt.
thug down a
That
little
shit
bit,
hurt,
man.
man. That shit hurt, dog. And then at the end when he's like, I mean, we weren't dating, right? Oh God, I know that pain.
Well, so okay, yes, they were not dating, but oftentimes
That was a
that,
relationship. That was a relationship.
yeah, and oftentimes those ones hurt more,
It hurt more, yeah.
because what is it? It's like,
'Cause you never, because you
go
never even
ahead.
got the experience of dating. Like, so you don't even you still have the regret too, like the hurt of missing them plus the regret of never actually getting to fully experience loving them.
Well, it's easier to mourn something and move past it when the boundaries were already defined. So
Right,
like, nothing is as isolating as, being sad over a person that you weren't supposed to care about in the first place.
right.
And you weren't sure if they cared about you at all. Like, so
Yeah,
yeah, that almost hurts worse.
that's a
But
fact.
so she just kind of abruptly breaks up with him
Yeah, they
because,
never. She just.
well, part of it is he wasn't taking a hint. So she goes,
Yeah,
you should come to New York City and learn
yeah,
English, and he just blew that one off.
yeah,
It was like, nah, man, she's trying to, because I mean, they are 24,
yeah.
both in the big city. Seoul is the New York City of South
Of
Korea.
South Korea, yeah.
She's in New York City, and they're gonna spend their 20s
On
being sexy
FaceTime,
pen pals. Like, no,
yeah,
like sooner or later, you do have to go live your life if you're not
right,
gonna move one way or another. They're not. It's not like he lived in New Jersey. I,
right.
this is on the other side of the world,
Yeah, man.
literally.
No, literally.
Right? So I don't know. I do think it was a good call to end it. So
It was, and I
it just
think,
hurt.
yeah, and falling in love in your 20s is hard because you still have to do so much work on yourself. In life, you have to, but especially in your 20s, you're still trying to get your career and your dreams off the ground. She was working on becoming a playwright and stuff. So I get it, but his acting in that scene was fun, was excellent. Like the way he played that, it wasn't overly emotional, but you could still read everything that he was feeling on his face.
I forget the name of the actor, but he's a star. That is
Yeah, he was
good.
fantastic.
That dude is good.
He was
And this is a
fantastic. By the
hard
way,
movie.
he speaks three languages. He is fluent in English. So
Yeah.
even when he has like the awkward English speaking, that's fucking great acting because you could make it very campy and be awkward
Yeah.
without it actually looking natural.
And he was speaking English in the South Korean accent, which is
Correct.
how it goes.
Yeah.
But he was phenomenal. It
Yeah, he
just
was
the
great.
way, I mean, he's conveying emotion over on a screen. He's talking to a
Yeah.
screen. So that's
And he
that's
doesn't
very
really have a
difficult.
lot of speaking lines either in the movie.
No.
Like a lot of his communication is nonverbal
Yeah.
because
Because
of
a
the
lot of
language
it
barrier.
is in New York City where he doesn't speak the language.
Exactly. So I do want to ask you this. So
Go for it.
do you think Nora focusing on school and her work is the real reason she is the only reason that she decided they should stop talking?
No,
I,
I
yeah.
think like most things, it was an amalgam of different inputs. But
Yeah.
I think she looked up one day and she was like, I'm 25 years old in the big city, and I spend all of my free time talking to a man on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
Um, I floated out him coming to New York City. He's kind of dismissive about that. And he's doing his own thing. He's trying to get into the finance world.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
going to China to learn Mandarin.
Right.
And I think at that age it was the right call. And I think that she wanted to focus on herself, but also she wanted to stop wasting her time, and she was wasting her time. Like, if
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
They were. They were.
what's the end game here? How does this end? We can't sit
Right.
here and video chat each other forever. He didn't seem to show much interest in moving to New York City because Seoul is his home, you
Right.
know. And New York City is hers because she's been there since she was 12. So
Hmm.
so either one of them is just going to be,
Completely
completely,
fish out of water.
yeah, forever. So
Yeah.
um I don't know.
I feel you. I think also, I think she was genuinely realizing that she was falling in love with him, and
Yeah.
that just would have made things worse and more difficult. Because again, they just couldn't be together
Yeah.
at that point in time.
That's why I like this movie.
Yeah,
Because and I'm kind of spoiling. I don't want to spoil it for the viewer, but like there's no bow at the end. There's no neat bow on the puzzle at the
yeah,
end. It's just like it's very much in real life how things go because
yeah.
often you don't get, your first pick. So,
Right.
do you have anything else for Act Two?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So then we get to the part where she's first of all, also just I love like that they show all the like the cuisine, authentic cuisine in the movie, like the
Yeah.
sake and all that stuff. It just really made me want to get some Korean food.
South Korea is the one, like if I my one like top of my international travel list. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Um what else? Oh yeah, so that writer's residency, that thing she was in with all the writers where they had that like house out in the woods or whatever.
Yeah.
That should look really dope. That looked like a really cool idea. Sometimes that's I might look into that. That seems kind of cool.
So what I didn't really so they didn't really expound upon that. So what was it, just like a writing retreat
I
where they
believe
just hole up
so.
in a cabin and write?
I think so. Yeah, there's residencies that like I think I've applied for them in the past. It was like a really long time ago, but where you can like submit your writing to a organization, publication, wherever the case may be, and they will like pay you to go to like a secluded place or just like a place somewhere and just like write and just write as much as you want, all you want, whatever. And then it's like basically a full-time gig pretty much, and they just will just say basically just get as much done as you can in this given period of time, and we'll work with whatever we have with you after that. So I think it's something like that.
So is
I'd
it like
imagine.
a an iron sharpens iron thing where
Yeah,
um the creative output it increases exponentially because a whole bunch of people are together at the same time.
correct.
So
Yeah.
like in business, it's called talent clusters in like San
Mhm.
Francisco and New York City,
Yeah,
where innovation, is a multitude more, is exponentially more when you have more talented people in the same areas at the same time.
right.
And there's no way to capture that. It's not a one plus one equals two. It's a one plus
Correct.
one squared equals da 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 because the
Hmm.
output is exponential. So is that same way with creative people?
Yeah,
Is it?
like
I'm
like what?
asking.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's 100%. Like that's
Okay.
like there's a phrase, obviously we know what writer's block is, but there's a
Yeah.
phrase that like writers say where they say if you have writer's block, it just means you're not living enough.
Yeah.
In the same token, it can also mean you're just not around enough creative people.
Yeah.
Like I can be like stuck and don't know what the fuck to write or create or whatever.
Yeah.
Now I can go to a friend's art show or an event, a live painting, or I can go to an open mic and or poetry reading, whatever the case may be. And I will leave there. I will start writing literally in that place because I will get so many ideas just from being around that energy and just
So let me
someone may
ask you
say one
this.
thing and it triggers a million ideas.
There's a thing in running, like
Hmm.
marathon training. It's called a runner's high, and it's
Yeah,
like you forget you're running almost, and you
right.
just for 10 minutes you almost like black out, and you're just
Hmm.
fast and you're efficient and you're running. Does that ever happen in writing?
Um,
You ever get
in,
writer's high and you just look up and there's four paragraphs on the page and you're like, where did that come from?
yes and no. Like writing is different because it's such an isolated thing because it's just you just in your head
Yeah,
and you're just kind of writing. It's this thing where like sometimes when you're in the zone and you just try to like not think about being in the zone because you don't want to get out of the zone.
yeah,
And then sometimes you don't even know if what you're writing is good and someone will read it and they'll be like, holy shit, this is amazing.
yeah.
I think the closest thing to a writer's runner's high, at least for me, as like a poet and performer, is performing.
Yeah.
And when you have that rhythm where your cadence is perfect and your cadence is in sync with the audience's reaction, and you're just kind of going back and forth, and it's like a dance. And they're just like snapping and like rewinding on like every line you do,
Yeah.
like that. Like it's a lot like that. Like it's like definitely electric. Like the adrenaline is crazy. Like a lot of athletes, I watch interviews with like a lot of athletes, and they'll say like they can't sleep after games because the adrenaline is still going, and
That's
it's a
why
lot like that.
a lot of them go out because there's a need a place
Yeah,
to dump that energy. Um,
same here. Yeah,
in weightlifting, sometimes you're so locked in, like you obviously you have your headphones in, and like there's
right.
sometimes I'm so locked in on a set, I don't even hear the song, and it's literally in
Yeah,
my ear, on top
right.
of
Yeah,
my
yeah,
ear,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's just like I'll finish the set, and I'll be like, that song is, 2 minutes. I started it before that lift. It's 2 minutes later. I don't remember. I mean, I know the song. It'll be like some Pusha T song, and I'll know the lyrics, but I'll like because
Right.
I know the lyrics, I'll be like, I didn't listen to any of that. Like I missed three of my
Correct.
favorite parts because I was just that locked in, and it was literally
Same.
in my ear.
Yeah, it's a
So
lot like that.
human brain is a magnificent
It's a very
muscle.
powerful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
Is
one
it a
last question
muscle?
for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nice.
and it's an organ.
Yeah. Yeah. Organ's the word I'm looking for.
Um, oh yeah, so my last question for Act Two is, do you believe in fate or destiny?
No. No, that's nonsense. I am commonly described by my family as annoyingly logical. So
Yeah,
like if you can't explain it to me, if you like
yeah,
fate and destiny is what the question was.
yeah, fate or destiny. Yeah.
No, I don't really believe in either of those things. I think that's why I like this movie because I think this is
Yeah,
much more realistic for how these things go. A
right.
lot of rom-coms, like my favorite one, it ends with like he shows up at the wedding and
Hmm.
he thinks she's getting married, but really it's she shows up at the wedding and she thinks he's
Hmm.
getting married, but really it's his sister's wedding and he's just like, "Oh, I love you too." Like that's not real life. That's not real life. So no, we should the audience should know that those aren't my I'm not a warm and fuzzy type for lack of a better word. So
I did want to ask you because you mentioned the illusion of control,
yeah,
and I feel like one of the biggest illusions of control in human behavior is the concept of closure. Like to
yeah,
me, I feel like it's something that it's like the height of arrogance where we're like, oh, I need closure from it's like, but who are you to ask that of me and vice
yeah.
versa. You know what I mean?
9 times out of 10, it's just two people who want to fuck again. And furthermore, you're never gonna get it's kind of like we're gonna probably get back to this trope over and over again, but it's kind of like you fired me, but I didn't like the way you did it. It's like, no,
Right,
you're mad that you got fired. You don't
right,
want closure, you want the relationship back. And you asking
right.
for closure is a way for you to throw a Hail Mary pass to get the relationship back.
Yeah,
Um, Whether that person like gives you a meaning. There's never an answer that's going to satisfy a person that
yeah.
wants
No,
you and you don't want them. Like so, it's
that's
it's
it.
just that's
Yeah,
all. That's the end of it. And it doesn't matter what you say or how you do it or whatever. It's never going to
yeah,
be enough when what you want isn't going to happen.
yeah. It's like I think we talked about this before, just like out or whatever. Like whenever something ends with someone that you're dating, whatever the case may be, and if they end it with you, you never ask why, because the why does not
It doesn't
matter,
matter.
and you
It
don't need
doesn't.
it. You don't want that in your life.
It like why is when it comes to matters of human emotion, the why has very little to do with anything.
Yeah, it has very little to do
It's
with you,
because at
ultimately.
the end of the day, when you're breaking up with someone, you are saying, I don't want to be with you because of who you are.
Correct.
There's no nice way to say that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what every breakup
That's a
is.
good
It
way to get
is
slapped in the face.
I mean, but ultimately every breakup is I no longer enjoy who you are.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Like just however there's more narrow reasons for it.
Correct.
You this, you that, you this, you
Yeah,
that, but it all comes back to I no longer enjoy who you are.
right.
There ain't no
And
nice way to do that.
it just you can't put that in a bow.
I mean, just probably cut all this. Anyways, let's go to act three. All
All right, yeah.
right. Get a
Uh,
good pause here
yeah.
for editing purposes. All right. All right. So, Act Three, at age 36, they have a reunion in New York City.
Hmm.
Hae Sung visits Nora in New York City. I just want to say off the bat, those first day fits were trash. You,
She was dressed like she was going to the market.
I was like, yo, those fits are
I felt
terrible.
like
He had
he
his
looked.
little
I think he
Dockers
looked
on.
nice. I don't know why his shirt was tucked in like that. I think he looked
He
nice. She looked like she was going to the grocery store to get some eggs.
She looked like he texted her 10 minutes ago, like, hey, I'm around the corner. And she was like, oh shit, you're in town.
Oh, I forgot that was today.
I didn't catch this. Did they show how they linked in between for that meetup? Or did they just meet up?
Oh, like how they made contact again?
Correct.
No, they didn't really show
Okay.
that.
I wish they had of.
Yeah, me
I
too.
wish they had.
Yeah, me too. Um, yeah, so they meet up and it's like a little awkward at first. It was like a minute before they even hugged, which is kind of which is kind of crazy.
They hadn't seen each other in 24 years.
Yeah,
They
24
hadn't
years, yeah.
talked in 12 years.
Yep.
Um,
Correct.
I'm surprised they recognized each other.
That's true.
Uh,
That's true.
but but she took her husband back to Korea and he flaked on her. And they
Oh
had that
yeah, that's
conversation in the
right.
park, and I
That's
think
right.
I've always thought that that was because as soon as there's a line in that Atlantic Star song "Secret Lovers," like as soon as I
Hmm.
look at you, it would show on my face, and that's why I think he flaked.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
same. Yeah,
that's man, like that's
that's
what like
tough.
this movie really does a good job of portraying the pain that is yearning.
Hmm.
Um, ain't nothing worse than just
And it's in your face and you can't grab it.
that is just yearning isn't
Yeah,
heartache because it's not a throbbing pain. It's just like this
right.
little nag that's always there that you just cannot shake.
You
And
know
this
what it's
movie,
like?
because this movie could have easily had him
Yeah.
crying, staring out the window like an
Hmm.
R&B movie. But he has to get up, he has to go
Yeah.
to work, he has to hang out with his boys, he has to go to
Yeah.
Chinese. But that yearning, that persistent, is just always there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
I
I went
think
long there.
Oh no, you're good. I think yearning to me in the way he does it, it's almost like having food stuck in your teeth, like in your
Mhm.
back molar. But it's like if you go and try to get it, you're gonna do this.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And he didn't want to do that. Or like you're just trying to keep the straight face so they can't tell that you're trying to get the thing out of your teeth.
correct.
And that's the way he played it, which was masterful. But yeah, that shit hurts, man. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Nah, man. Unrequited love is a pain that's hard to even explain if you haven't dealt with it.
Yeah, that because there's nothing you can do, and you just got to sit there and take it and be mature if you're like forced to deal with them in a social situation. Um,
This is
and
wild.
they know, and you know, and it's awful.
This is wild low stakes compared to the other stuff we're talking about. But one
Yeah.
thing I did love about this movie is they portrayed the accurate size of the Statue of Liberty. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's very small, and
Mhm.
other movies and TV shows make it sound like this giant
Yeah.
figure. It's tiny. And like you catch the ferry to Staten Island ferry and you go across it and you're just like shocked at how little it is.
Really? Okay.
But I just hate how some movies make it seem like this towering thing. It's very, very small.
Yeah,
So
it's funny.
that's
I
random.
I was
But
gonna
it
bring
did
that
do
up
that in the
too.
movie.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how many New Yorkers do you think have actually ne never been to the Statue of Liberty?
I don't think. I mean, if you live, I mean, you're gonna go and like go to the thing and like pay the pass to go up to the top of it. I don't know. That would be quite
Probably
a
not.
few, but like
Yeah,
all of them have
probably.
seen it because they've all been on the Staten Island ferry.
Yeah, true.
And so you literally go across it. It's some billionaire died and just left money to run the ferry forever for free. So you
Oh
get on the
wow.
ferry and it's free, and you just go back. You literally take it across Staten Island, and you see the Statue of Liberty, and you get across the two boroughs. So
Okay.
um, no. So what do you got? Observation question about Act Three.
First of all, I want to say that I forget his character's name. Was it Hey Sung? I want to say. The
Correct.
guy, he's a better man than me because I would have never put myself through that. I'm gonna go to New York to visit the love of my life, who I think is the love of my life with her husband. Hell no. I'm
Well,
not
he, well, I
I'm
mean,
not
they're
doing it. That's
36. They're grown-ups.
yeah,
Like it's not,
yeah, but I feel like he still had some sort of
of
lingering
course.
hope.
That
I don't
conversation
know.
that they had in the bar,
Yeah.
that's why I love this movie because there's no happily ever after. There's just
No.
what exists. And,
Hmm.
they have that quite rude, actually, a different language conversation in front of
It
her
was very
husband.
rude. That was rude as hell, yeah.
um, and he's just, there's no tears, there's no storming out. There's
Yep.
just what is. And
Yeah.
she can't leave her husband. She wants him and he wants her, but they know it's not possible. There's no happily ever after. And that's a
Yep.
lot more authentic than what we see in a lot of rom-coms.
Very true. I also really like the dynamic between her and her husband. I wasn't super into their romance personally, but I like they had like so many honest and like healthy
Yeah.
conversations. They were never screaming and shouting. It was never from an emotional place. It was genuinely just, this is how I feel, or what are you feeling? Are you happy, with what we have in life? That sort of thing.
Imagine meeting the man your wife is actually in love with, and you know it, and she
And like,
knows
and
it,
you
and he
know it,
knows
and
it,
she knows
everyone
it,
knows it.
everyone knows it.
But it's easy for us to sit here and be big and bad and say we would never do that. We'd leave. I think real life is complicated, and that's still his
Yeah,
wife. She knows, she still loves him. They built a life together. This man lives in South Korea. She's not gonna leave you for him.
right.
But deep down, you know.
Yeah, that's what's crazy.
You're not making the kitty purr like her man back in South Korea. You're just not. You're just not, buddy. That can't feel good. No.
No, not at all. Oh man. I would say I did like that when what's the husband's name? Shit, I can't remember. I think it was Arthur, I want to say.
Asian guy,
White guy,
Asian woman, white dude.
Asian
That's the
woman. Yeah,
cast.
white dude. Yeah, when okay, so when
We'll be
the
politically
husband
correct. South Korean guy,
oh yeah,
South
South
Korean
Korean.
woman, white
Yes.
dude.
Yes. Caucasian male. 35 years old.
Yeah.
And when he meets him, I like that they spoke each other's languages to each other. I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool. Um, and even when he was talking to her when they were in bed, and just the attention that he paid to her at all times, where he said, "Do you know you speak Korean when you dream or when you talk in your sleep?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "I want to." He said, I wish I spoke Korean so I could understand what you were saying when you're dreaming." And I was like, "That's some of the most simple yet romantic shit I've ever heard."
Yeah. I saw one time on Twitter there was a dude he was marrying. It was a cross ethnicity relationship. I
I
think it was a
think I know what
white
you're talking
dude
about.
and an Indian
Yeah,
woman. And for the wedding day, he had learned to say something in Indian. And he like they thought no one he did this in secret. He went and got
yeah.
Indian lessons.
I
And
was
so
just
he
watching
gets
that
the
today.
mic. He gets the
Yeah.
mic and he just starts speaking Indian. And I'm probably got the languages wrong, but you
Yeah,
get the gist of it. He
it
starts
was
speaking her
I
native
think it
tongue.
actually was Korean, I want to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
I think it might
He
have
starts
been
speaking her
Korean.
native tongue and it's
Yeah.
fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was watching that too. Actually, it's funny because you brought that up because I was going to ask you if you married someone of a different nationality, would you learn their language?
yeah. Um I I English. I try to teach myself Spanish on Duolingo all the time. So of course I
Yeah.
would. I mean, well, it's hard to learn a new language
It
after your
is.
formative years. So and
Correct.
most never do because you're never going to get
Enough
even if you
exposure.
learn Spanish, you don't learn how to speak it. You learn how to recite it, and those are two different things.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, I would learn to communicate in her native tongue, but
Yeah.
being able to have a free flowing conversation, that's really advanced learning of a language.
Yeah.
So I know people who who are born here and learn English and still don't speak it. Still don't understand sarcasm in the written or
No.
spoken
Yeah.
word. Still don't understand past tense and present tense and
Yep.
still can't get
There,
effect
there,
and
and
affect
there.
right. Like
And your.
these are people who've lived in lived in America. So like the idea that at 36 you're going to learn the
Yeah.
nuances of a whole nother language, it's tough. But I would try, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I would too. Yeah, okay, so speaking of like the husband just basically being a cuck for part of the the last act of the
Oh,
movie.
stall them out. Okay, hold on. This is real life. This is real life. She's not leaving him. And this
I
idea that
know, I know.
the overwhelming majority of people do not marry their first choice.
That is true. That is
You're
true.
not, this is not a movie. Most marriage is often more of a strategic decision than an emotional one.
Yeah.
And their love was genuine.
No,
The
it
dude
was. It
was in
was.
town for a day and a half.
Oh yeah, I know.
They get to
It
spend the
just
whole
was
rest of their
crazy to
lives
me.
together.
Like
Like
it
this
was
is
crazy to me. For me, the scene at the dinner at the bar was crazy. That they just talked and spoke in Korean for like 10 minutes while he just sat there by himself, like a bump on a log.
I loved his
Um,
character because I thought it was like it would have been
he
very cliche a movie if he'd have like started a fight or something. I
Right.
think
And shout out
that
to the actor too, because he was
yeah,
phenomenal.
without
So
a
I do
lot to
want,
do.
yeah,
So
without a lot to do. He had to again, he had to do because Lansbury, a lot of his acting was physical and nonverbal communication. So I want to ask you, when we're getting ahead a little bit, but when she walks him to his Uber before he goes back to Korea,
correct.
do you think that husband was freaking out the entire time?
No, I don't. I don't think any of it felt good for him, but I
Right.
think he knew this is something that she had to do, and he
Yeah.
loved her, and he was just gonna, deal with it. He was there at the end of the stoop when she came back for the hug.
Yeah.
I was just waiting on her to run into his arms and hop in that taxi and it to be a cliche ending, and I love that it didn't do that.
Yeah. Me too. Because also the husband didn't deserve that.
No, um, that's why it's one of like my favorite movies of 2023. I saw it last year. And I just love how simple it is and how real it is and how authentic it is to the experience of, this thing called life and trying to find partner and trying to find, that genuine feeling, and sometimes the
Yeah.
feeling is genuine, and you sometimes you get 87% of it and not 100, and 87's got to be good enough.
Yeah.
He didn't get 100, she didn't get 100, but they're gonna live with their 87, and he's an oh boy, South Korean dude.
Yeah.
Is gonna go back to South Korea. He's an eligible bachelor. He's gonna find him
Right.
a young lady, and
And
he's gonna
yeah.
deal with his 76%, and he'll live with it. You
Yeah,
know,
and I think he definitely needed it more than she did, to be honest, because
of course.
I don't know that he ever really moved on
He
from
never
her.
will. That's the thing. You don't.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
all
you never forget your first you never forget your first love.
he'll always hop on Facebook and have a little twinge, that little yearn. But
Yeah.
then you got to go get the kids to school, and that's life.
Yep. Yeah. That's true. Um, I love one thing I also love about the scene where he's talking to her at the bar where he says, um, he said, your husband's good at staying and you're really good at leaving. So I'm glad that you found someone that basically that you want to stay with.
Correct.
Um, and it reminded me of a line that her mom said earlier in the movie when they were on the date in the park when they were kids, where she said, where her friend was like, but you're leaving so much behind, you're really just gonna leave another country like in a life that you built here. And she said, if you leave something behind, you gain something too. And I thought that was really interesting and profound and a great way to like look at change in life because a lot of times we get afraid of things being different, it's scary, and that's kind of what causes you to run back to old familiar things, which is pretty much what he spends the whole movie doing. So it's really cool that he finally was able to accept her for who she is now as an adult, while also um, giving himself the freedom to find happiness in his life.
One, damn nigga, you be locked in. You knew you call back to a subtitle conversation. That whole first act, I was like, can I fast forward through this? Two, I think because the movie is a tight hour 40
Yeah,
and they didn't flesh out a lot of things, it makes him
right,
feel like he's obsessed. But we're talking about 12-year gaps.
right.
And I am certain they didn't do the montage, but he went and lived his life, you
Yeah,
know.
I'm sure.
He
Yeah.
he threw that message up on Facebook looking for her because there's the yearnings there. But
Hmm.
he still went to the military. He still went and learned Mandarin. He
Yeah, he
still
still
went and
had a
got a
girlfriend at
job.
one point.
Yeah, like a living girlfriend, and the 12
Yeah.
years in between 24 and 36, he probably went and did whatever he wanted to do.
Hmm.
Um, he doesn't mean he didn't care about her, but like I think the movie
Right.
makes you feel like he's just been staring out the window the whole
Right.
24
For
years. And
12 years, 24
I wish
years,
they
yeah.
had let him, we got to
Show
see
more
her
of
live
his
some
life.
life, but
Yeah, we didn't get to see him.
but like
Um,
but no, I think that's the beauty of it is that I don't think everyone's right to feel a way, but I don't think anyone's wrong for how they behaved. So
right, right.
it's just the natural
And even
tension.
even the husband said that. He's like, I don't have a right to be mad at this. You're not, you didn't do anything
Uh,
wrong.
uh,
Yeah.
it's complicated.
Yeah.
Again, would I feel good? No. But
No.
I'm not, blow up your life because she went walking around New York City with her ex from 24 years ago one day.
Yeah. It's not even
Like
really an
that.
ex. Like they never slept together or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they
Um,
were sexy pen pals 12 years ago.
yeah, pretty much. Um, but I also like the subtle like cultural references and like globalization that's addressed in the movie.
Yeah.
Like when they asked the guy the her friend what where does he want to go eat? And he's like, how you say pasta?
Yeah.
And actually reminded me of something a friend of mine told me once. They um did study abroad in college in Italy, or yeah, in Italy. And ironically, she was like, they actually have really good Chinese food over there because they specialize obviously in noodles.
Yeah.
So it just reminded me of like the globalization, how the world has just gotten so much smaller with social media and travel and all that, which I thought was pretty cool.
I make I tell you all the time, like people don't, if you had told, not even 20, if you had like 15 years ago, if you had showed me a modern grocery store, I'd have thought this was the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Like what people don't, youngins don't understand is that when I was coming up,
Mhm.
avocados just weren't a thing in Minnesota. Like you couldn't just
Yeah.
get an avocado in a grocery store in the middle of the winter like you can today.
Right.
Like even in our lifetimes, the
Mm,
globalization of everything and of food and how it's so widespread. Like in the middle of bumfuck Kansas, you can find Thai food now. That wasn't a
right.
thing 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you used to have to go to New York City to like shop for designer clothes. That's why Times
Right.
Square was such a thing. And you don't need to go to a certain location to shop for
Nope.
clothes anymore. So
That's
I
true.
concur.
Let's see if I have any other questions for you for this act. Yeah, I think that's all my questions for you. You got any questions for me for Act 3?
No, the only question I had was imagine meeting the man your wife is actually in love with, but I think I burned that one earlier. So, uh, why is this movie
Yeah.
different than other rom-coms?
It
Yeah,
didn't have
okay,
a
so why do you think this movie is different from other rom-coms?
um the ending, but not because it wasn't a quote unquote happy ending, because I think it
Yeah.
was a still a pleasant ending.
Yeah.
I just think it wasn't the ending that when you start the movie that you would have hoped for. Like if you told me when I started the movie, this is the backstory, this is what happens, I'd have been like, why am I watching this? But the
Yeah.
way that the story is told and the way that the ending is handled, um, it gives you it's very realistic, but also it's um respectful of the love that everyone in the story has for one another, if that makes sense.
It's not a happily ever after, but I think it's a happy ending.
Correct. Yeah.
But I think he got what he needed out of that 36 hours in New York City.
Correct.
She was comfortable. She had her decision affirmed to end it 12 years ago,
Yes.
and the husband got his wife back. So I thought
Yep.
it wasn't a happily ever after, but it was a happy ending. So
Yeah, I
how do you rate
agree.
it?
Um, I give it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I wish we got more of his backstory, during those 12/24 years. All we ever saw was him drinking with his friends pretty much and having breakfast with his parents. I think that would have fleshed out the story more. But I really love it. The writing was actually so the woman who wrote the movie also directed it. This actually is her story, which I thought was really cool. Um, some really great shots. I love the shot where when they're on the ferry and it's through the window, but it almost looks like the frame of like a Polaroid. I thought that was really cool. Um, and just like the nod to authentic Korean culture was beautiful to see. And that it was a lot of times we talk about assimilation in the States, and it's nice to see someone who was so far away from home, but still, appreciated themselves and their culture and where they come from. So, yeah, I definitely give it 4.5 stars. I really enjoy watching the movie, and I'm not really into watching movies with subtitles for the most part, but I really enjoy this one.
Um, I go 3.5. I it was one of my favorite movies of 2023. I'm just trying to avoid great inflation by giving every movie a 4 or 5.
I feel you.
But it's 3.5. I loved it. Solid movie, solid, different. It wasn't
Yeah,
stereotypical. It
very
wasn't,
unique.
the subtitles bring you in, but they aren't alienating.
Yep.
And yeah, 3.5. All right. Thanks for listening. Again, I'm Darius. D's all up in your area on all socials.
And I'm Jordan, Jordan B. Writing on all socials.
Please rate, like, subscribe. We are on Movie Goers Pod on all social medias. Movie Goers PD on Twitter. That is Movie Goers PD on Twitter.
If you want to reach out to us, we're at moviegoerspod@gmail.com. That's moviegoerspod@gmail.com. Just want to say happy Valentine's Day. Shout out to all the lovers out there. Make
Happy
sure you take them
Valentine's
out.
Day. And
Take your girl out to dinner, man.
it ain't even gotta be your girl,
Any
fellas.
woman in your life.
You know you crawl in that woman's bed every weekend. You can swing by and buy some fucking flowers.
Buy some fucking roses and some
Don't be a
chocolates
dickhead. I don't care if she says she doesn't want it. You know
because she
what you
does
you
want it. You know
she
she be
does
wanting
want it. You know where you be. You know you be texting that girl. Swing by, buy her some
it.
flowers. It's not gonna bankrupt you. You're not
Yeah.
proposing. Be decent.
Yeah.
Be decent to
And
her.
and and actually write something in the card. I don't care how nice the card is.
I ain't
Write
doing
something
all
in the
that,
card
but
too. It'll mean more to her. She'll keep it forever.
yeah.
But anyway, that's a wrap. Thanks for coming to the movies with us. We'll see y'all next week, back with another one.